Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Well, to my right, your left is Peter Jager. Peter is with UDOT. And I know you can read his bio in the booklet here, but as we stepped outside, just in the lobby to kind of orient ourselves, I came to understand that Peter's been about this for better than 2 decades and is focusing on some really unique technologies that are very applicable not only to the conversations we've had already, but to the future of where UDOT is going with its technology, with the implementation of sensors, connected vehicles, which you might see in his presentation is referred to as CV. I've learned more acronyms today than there are letters in the alphabet. So hopefully, as we see more, if you have a question on an acronym, you can do what I did, and that's quickly jump into Google or raise your hand. We'll answer those questions as we go. But Peter has a slide presentation. We'll turn the time over to him. Peter, thanks for joining us. Time is yours.
All right, thanks, Curtis. So yeah, I'm Peter Jager with the Utah Department of Transportation. Talk a little bit about our technology program we have going on and some of the items we're installing out on the highway. Dr. Asher mentioned about connecting vehicles directly to the infrastructure, and that's a lot of what my group, a lot of what my projects are. So talk a little bit about them here. First off, to talk about our number one overarching goal at the department is improving safety. Achieving a strategic goal of 0 crashes, 0 injuries or fatalities on the road. So that is also our primary goal of deploying the technology. And we know reducing crashes by achieving that goal will automatically improve the efficiency of the highway. We can improve traffic flow. We have the goal of mobility, improving mobility, optimizing mobility with what we have on the roadways, as well as achieving full situational awareness. We want to know what's going on and where it's happening at any time. We have things like traffic cameras. We have online, Google Maps showing us traffic flow, but we want to get that information not just to our operations center, but eventually to drivers individually so they can know what's going on around them. And so doing all this, we're trying to prepare for connected vehicle equipped production vehicles. We're preparing for when the manufacturers, when Ford puts out this technology in all their vehicles. At one point Toyota said they were going to put dedicated short-range communication in all their vehicles. And the FCC made some changes, so they backed off on that. But we're preparing the roadways to be ready to take advantage of that technology when it's ready. So here's a quick look of what we've done so far. In 2017, our first application we went with was a conditional transit signal priority. We started with something somewhat simple, somewhat limited, looking at a major corridor along the west side of Salt Lake Valley. So Redwood Road, which is a very busy road, very busy bus line, runs every 15, 20 minutes. So looking to improve the signal, they'd get an early green light or extend the green light if they're approaching and they're running behind schedule. The computer looks at the schedule and looks at the position of the bus to give it that command. It doesn't automatically get a green every time. On the other hand, for snowplows, we do give them preemption. We use the same technology to give the snowplows kind of a green wave, an automatic green every time they approach the intersection so they can plow continuously down the road and clear the road sooner. So in 2018, the Provo BRT line, the Utah Valley Express opened, and using that same technology, we deployed it down there to keep that bus running at maintaining their headways. That line is a very busy line. It runs as short as 6-minute headways, meaning 6 minutes, a bus coming every 6 minutes on the route. So in order to keep them on that schedule, we put in the signal priority, and it's been very helpful in that. So 2019, we extended more snowplow routes throughout Salt Lake Valley, totaling for 131 roadside units, or those antennas on the side of the road you see in the top right corner. That's what they look like, mounted up on the traffic signal arm. So at that point, we had 131 of those and 86 onboard units on buses and snowplows. Here's a quick look. If you want to dive more into the technology, get more technical here. You see the antenna up on the mast arm. It connects with the network cable down to the signal cabinet at ground level, where it goes into an interface card. And then on the vehicle side, there's another mini computer, the onboard unit running Linux inside the bus or inside the snowplow that transmits the signal back and forth to that antenna on top of the traffic signal. So yeah, it takes an electrical engineer to put all this together and get it figured out. But the simple explanation is the plow or bus is traveling on the roadway. It comes into range of that roadside unit, that antenna. It's constantly transmitting 10 times per second what's called the basic safety message. It's there's a string of data to there, but the two important things it's saying, here I am and what I am. I'm a snowplow, and I'm at this point on the roadway, and I'm on a green light. So the SPAT and map data, those acronyms, SPAT is signal phasing and timing. It gets back telling it what this traffic signal looks like at that point and where it is on the system with the GPS report. So the MITS is the software that was developed to determine the plow location in the lane, distance to the signal, and when it needs to turn the light green. Also looking at the transit, where the bus is. It gets even more detailed with the buses because it not only needs to know where it is, but where it is on the schedule. If it's behind schedule, you can set a threshold. Is it 2 minutes late? Is it 5 minutes late? And where to make those changes. Or, oh, it's on time or it's early. We're not going to make any changes to the signal. So the important thing to know is all this is happening in the background on the computer. There's no action required by the operator. There's no indication to the operator that any of this is going on. There's no light to look at on the dashboard to know, okay, I'm going to get a green light. The operator just follows the traffic signals as normally. Unfortunately, there's no magic button. There's no remote control. They don't get to, say, hey, I want a green light, and push a button. But everybody wants that, but everybody asks me about that. Where's the magic button? But it doesn't exist, unfortunately. So our connected vehicle snowplow preemption project that I mentioned, the details are, we picked out 5 routes based on safety analysis, based on where we could get the most bang for the buck here, the most safety improvement. And you can see on the map there, the red dots and blue dots, 5 corridors, 55 total intersections. And the boundaries of this were determined by the maintenance station boundaries. Basically looked at the corridor, and then knowing we would need to equip every snowplow in that maintenance station, we went with the maintenance station boundaries for efficiency. So 46 snowplows starting in March of 2019. That was a pretty dry year, so we only got a couple of storms at the end of that year to test it in. But the following winter we were ready, and this past winter, which was an extra heavy snow year, it was very well tested, very beneficial. And our second phase was down in Provo-Orem. I mentioned that Utah Valley Express route. The antennas were already mounted on the traffic signals, so all we had to do basically was go equip the 10 snowplows in that maintenance station, and there were a few more traffic signals to close the gap on the state highway to have that system ready to go the following winter. Here's a quick look, and again on the technical side, this is what the user interface software looks like. As I mentioned, the operator gets no indication what's going on. It's all running in the background. So back at the office, an engineer can pull this up on the screen, see these yellow dots. It's kind of leaving a trail as the bus goes, sending out those basic safety messages, or a signal request message. So you can observe it, you can monitor the system. If the bus driver says, hey, I'm never getting any changes here, or the snowplow says, oh, I got stuck at a red light, we can pull this up and check, see how it works. So following this, the next step, well, we received a grant, federal grant, Advanced Traffic Congestion Management grant to deploy even further. So expanding this throughout more routes in Utah County, expand the vehicle to everything applications. We equipped 5 corridors in Utah County, including a busy bus route on Highway 89 from Lehigh to Provo. And we also went to look at other applications to see how we could deal with the greatest snow on earth, something we've been talking about today. That's Little Cottonwood Canyon right there, which also has many very busy traffic, but other weather disruptions as well. So connected vehicle deployment with Panasonic. We're going to hear from Panasonic this afternoon, but we teamed up with them to build a connected vehicle data ecosystem where we could gain vehicle insights. We can tap into the computer on board every vehicle, which is producing telematics, producing information and storing it, sometimes sending it back to the manufacturer, but often just processing it itself. So we deployed on these routes in 2019 up to Interstate 80 through Parley's Canyon at a loop around Park City, up here at the top. Also in Big Cottonwood Canyon, these new applications, getting insight from vehicle on the weather, on the maybe a crash indication, we can tap into the airbag sensor and find out if an airbag went off, if there's hard braking, if the vehicle's slipping, there's traffic control engaged. All this information is gathered and processed in the software to send back to the traffic operations center and determine if vehicles are slipping off the road. Do we need to pull up the cameras and see what's going on there? Kind of giving a heads up to the operators at the traffic operations center. Eventually, we want to get to the point where we can send that data directly to a driver and get real-time information to a driver beyond just, get the information to the traffic operations center, put it up on the video board or on the message board over the freeway. But these are the different warnings we can get. A curve speed warning, are vehicles slipping on a curve? Are they need to slow down more than what's even posted on the sign? If they're navigating a tight turn like the S-curve there in Big Cottonwood Canyon in the picture. Spotted weather impact warnings, sudden downpour or a sudden freeze on the road. And all this data analytics can go back to not just real-time information, but also for future analytics and developing, safer roads. So with this project, we had 69 roadside units. Instead of intersections, they're deployed along freeway segments. We started out with equipping 35 vehicles in our department. These were light-duty vehicles instead of the plows. All the vehicle data, to remind you, is anonymous and secured. We don't know, when we get the messages back from the vehicles, we don't know which vehicle it is. We know where it is on the map, but we don't know who's driving it or what type of vehicle it is. So, as I mentioned, we expanded into Utah County. 2022, we have operational now multiple routes. We have Saratoga Springs, Redwood Road. We have Highway 89 running from Lehigh to Provo, which is a transit route 850, connecting 2 front-runner stations and also interfacing with the Utah Valley Express, which connects the universities there. And we also did the entire city of Orem. We wanted to do a connected vehicle test bed or enclave of sorts, where we equipped every intersection and every fleet vehicle in the city of Orem there to gather a concentration of data and see what kind of insights we could get, equipping every vehicle in the area. Our first phase, we had a smattering of state vehicles. So by equipping 150 vehicles there between the buses, the plows, and the fleet vehicles, we're gathering even more data to put in the software to get these details. So this is the biggest expansion of the signal priority in the snowplow down there. Now we're going back to Salt Lake County, going to go east-west on 35th South, our UTA route 35 Max line, as well up north in Ogden on our Ogden Valley or Ogden Express, which just opened a couple weeks ago, and it connects the front runner downtown area with the Weber State University area. It's improving mobility in that area. 2023. So that adds us another 51 roadside units and 27 more buses. And finally, over the next 2 years, this technology is to the point where they've changed the original format, which was called a dedicated short-range communication, to a new cellular V2X, which was a changeover being done by the FCC, but it means we'll have to go out and change out some of these antennas on the original routes we deployed. So we're already at the point of replacing some units. Technology changes so fast. So we've done some research on the effectiveness of this. BYU was engaged through our UDOT research program to do an analysis on the snowplow preemption program. Now the results turned out to be more qualitative than quantitative. There's so many variables, you can't have the same storm twice on the same road and you can't really turn the system. You could turn the system off, but not for, it proved to be extremely difficult for comparison's sake, comparing the roads before, the time to clear a road before and the time to clear after. Not exactly the same conditions, but we do know it's been successful at reducing time to plow, and the drivers have given us many other benefits, such as when they don't stop at a traffic signal, they don't leave a pile of snow there. If they can push the snow all the way end to end from one end of the road to the other, and they can platoon more effectively, clear the road more effectively and get them off the road and traffic returning to more normal patterns. So we continue to do more expansion. Here's a look at the overall system we have so far from Salt Lake to Orem, Provo area. And a quick glance here. Tim with Panasonic is going to talk more this afternoon. A couple looks at the software they've developed here called Cirrus. We have different modules where the engineer can look at the traffic or monitor the roadside units or the connected intersection. Here's a look at all of the roadside units, all the sensors installed on the roadway in the Cirrus software. And if you look down at the bottom of the screen, the blue dots, this is a screenshot, but live software, you would see those dots moving around. Those are the vehicles that are connected to the system. You can see those moving around. And any alerts they give off will show up in red. So if I filter out all of that, you can see a few locations here where you've got a few hard braking alerts and one hazard lights on. So these would be the type of events an operator would look for. If you saw a high concentration of hard braking events, you'd probably want to pull up a camera or have an incident management technician go out and see what's going on. So these are the type of insights that would help us. And this is an engineering view of the sensors on the road, connected intersection managers. So see all the signals that are lit up in green. That's not the phase. That's the status of the antenna there. Green meaning it's in good state. And the one in red meaning it has a fault and needs to be investigated. So that's all I got. So back to you, Curtis.
Thank you, Peter. Well done. Thank you.
Sure. I've been in security for about 10 years. I was born and raised in the Ogden area. I'm a proud Utah man. I went to the U. I'm very proud of that, in case any BYU fans in here. But I was actually the access communications rep for the Rocky Mountains, and so I've dealt with Utah for a number of years on their camera deployments. And I covered LVT, actually, and I met them at a trade show in Vegas back in 2015 when they were not quite a large company. We were evaluated last year at $1 billion, close to $1 billion, so we're a fairly large company now. But the bottom line is I saw something very unique. You'll mainly know us if you see any of the trailers in some of the big retail parking lots. You'll see us in airports now, critical infrastructure. You see the blue lights. If you drive down I-15, you're bound to see a few here and there at night. We're mainly well known for the trailer aspect, but we actually do a lot more. I'm excited to maybe just give you a brief intro, if that's okay, on LVT and what we do and why we're different. As you can see here on the trailer, let's see, I can use this pointer, is that? There we go. So like I said, we're mostly known for the trailers, but there's actually two main components. The base, the trailer portion of it, the mobile portion, is really just power. So there's a bank of batteries in there. We can power those batteries from shore power, from solar, or we also have an option to do a silent generator that's very unique to our solution. It's a methanol-based generator system, and the byproduct is just water vapor. So the trailer will drip a little bit of water is all, and you won't even hear that there's a generator going. So there's no gas generators. We don't have to worry about sound pollution. That makes it very easy for us to deploy in areas like the Pac Northwest, which we do a lot. There's quite a bit of crime in the Portland and Seattle areas. But the bottom line is that the base is mobile. We can move it. Typically, to get surveillance, you have to extend infrastructure. We just heard an awful lot of infrastructure being extended, which is necessary. LVT can be used as a stopgap for that. Maybe it takes a while to get the infrastructure in place. The project, the contractors, everything you have to get going in order to extend network infrastructure. We can be a stopgap for that and provide surveillance very quickly. Rapid deployment is a word or a phrase that means something different to everybody, but it takes about 25 minutes to set up an LVT trailer, and then you flip a switch and it connects to our network and you have surveillance. So I don't know very many options that are truly rapid deployable that are quicker than that. Likewise, the base will power what you see up top, our head unit. And inside of that, that's kind of where the magic happens. We have an edge controller that once it's triggered on, it will automatically connect to our proprietary cellular network. There's an awful lot of people out there and platforms in the industry that say they're cloud-based, which that's great. We are 100% cloud-based. The only way to interact with our system is through a browser on a PC or your mobile app. But what makes us very unique in this case is that we're porting high-definition video through cellular networks, which has not been very cost-effective. And we feel like we're true pioneers in that space, where we are offering intelligent video analytics through a cellular network. We don't have to touch any IT guy's network, which is the best thing in the world to sell. I love it, because most of the time when you tell an IT guy you got to get on their network, there's a lot of questions you got to answer. So it's very, very heavy friction there. So in addition to that, we're able to proactively detect the presence of a human or a vehicle. Those are the two objects that we're concerned with. We do record 24/7, but we can have intelligent detection notifications that say there's a person in this area or there's a vehicle in this area. We can even do cross-line, wrong way. We are not an analytic company per se. What makes LVT so unique is that we have a massive mobile infrastructure. There's 10,000 trailers across the country. And so at any given time, a trailer's coming off contract, we can deploy it, and you have proactive notification of people or vehicles in those areas. But we also record 24/7, so those intelligent alarms become very valuable because it allows you to search footage very quickly. Likewise, we offer audio. So the audio can respond based on behavior. If a person or a vehicle is in an area for a predetermined amount of time, the speaker can play an automated message. We can time loop those messages and say, at the top of the hour, every hour, I want you to play this message. And then we also give you the ability to do live talk down. So if you're getting notifications in areas, whether it's fleet management, whether you're watching just remote parking lots, whatever it might be, we can notify you intelligently and say, there's somebody here. And to do that is very easy, and we reduce the most friction that we possibly can to get the units onto your site and to start proactively deterring. So from a deterrence standpoint, we do the audio portion, but we also have intelligent strobes that can also respond to behaviors. Where it's blue normally, somebody comes on, they go red. So there's a lot of different options there. And again, that's how the product stands today. We do consider ourselves pioneers in this space, which is awesome because we're a Utah company. So I feel very fortunate to be here. It's pretty unique to have a company of this magnitude, in my opinion, come out of Utah. So pretty awesome.
Good. Thank
Yep.
you.
Trails? Yeah.
Well done, thank you. Let's just do a quick tech check on the mics here. So Peter, go ahead. Are you live?
Is that, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so you're not going to share a mic unless we have an extra mic, but we're close enough here that we can do that. You might ask how it was that we comprised this panelist, and I was challenged with, two options. Number one was to get someone that could run, trails and ultramarathons and or bench, 450. So I was given we narrowed it down pretty quickly between Peter and Dave. So they check off those boxes. Oh, and they know a little something about transportation infrastructure. So I've got a few questions to ask, and thank you both for your presentation, giving us an overview. So this last winter, Mother Nature blessed us with an abundant system of moisture and that obviously impacted roads. From your perspective, Peter, how did UDOT prepare for such an interesting anomaly, a grateful anomaly from Mother Nature this year? And in what ways does technology help us prepare for some of those, swings in the winters that we've been experiencing for the future?
So the technology, as I talked about, helping clear the roads, maybe sooner, get traffic returned back to normal. So when there's a heavy storm, if they can make one pass an hour, if they can do it all platoon together, on a 2-lane road, they can, go down both lanes at the same time, one behind the other, catching the snow that the other drops ahead. Without having to stop at traffic signals, they can get all the way to the end of the corridor and push the snow to the end instead of leaving windrows, as they told me they call it. They can, get the left turn lane set up the preemption so they get the green through in the left at the same time. They said, oh, we can go, instead of making a second pass, hit the left turn lane, we do it all together. We get through quicker. Well, anecdotally, I heard down in Utah County that they were going anywhere as less as half the time on a University Parkway getting through that corridor using this preemption technology. When it had some maintenance issues and it was down for a while, they said, oh, wow, we really missed it. We're back to taking twice as long. So that's technology at work there, I think.
Great. And then Dave, if we were to take the phrase out of our U.S. postal men and women where they say nor rain, nor sleet, nor snow keeps them from delivering the mail. LiveView Technologies, the technology it runs in all kinds of weather, yeah? And even the battery packs, if it's extreme heat, extreme cold, it still functions year-round. Does LVT assist in any traffic patterns or alerting other systems in the county or in the state regarding, any anomalies that may pop up in our traffic systems, whether it's good days or snowy days? Is there a tie-in between LVT and, roadway flow during extreme weather patterns, both heat and cold?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question because a number of years ago, I was in Park City and my wife was driving up to meet me, and she went along it's over by Morgan, so I think that's I-84 that goes up to Park City, and I actually got onto to UDOT site, and it was a LiveView page to check the weather patterns, to tell her, hey, it's safe, the roads are open, you can go. So I think LVT is uniquely positioned because we can provide the eyes for that. We don't have anything in terms of intelligence that can proactively say, hey, there's snow, anything like that. However, we believe we're building a platform that can ingest those type of sensors. And today, as it stands, we're more of a perimeter protection play. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we can deploy and have eyes in areas where you typically need to trench to or have an antenna system to, we can deploy anywhere if you meet cell and sun requirement. And so we can get eyes in those areas that you typically can't get to or can't see.
Are most of your clients private or government or public companies? I mean, what do you see as far as your client base right now? And where do you see it going in the future?
It's a great question. So retail, I believe, we've kind of caught hold there mainly because of the ability to deploy at scale and maintain consistency around the customer experience. Because the software is so vast and our network is so vast, we want to have the same experience in Portland as you do in El Paso. And so retail gobbled that up, and then when you add in the fact that we don't have to touch their network, and to manage ISPs, if you have 1,000+ sites, is a nightmare. So telling them, no, don't worry about it, we don't have to touch your network, they gobbled it right up. And so retail is really where we found our niche. However, we're starting to branch out. We've got a number of government contracts, one with the one of the military branches that we're helping protect bases. And then we're expanding, verticalizing and expanding into critical infrastructure, more education based. So we're exploring new opportunities and new verticals, but retail really is where we've cut our teeth.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Peter, we talked briefly out in the lobby, but of the opportunities and challenges that we're facing in our infrastructure, we obviously can't build roads fast enough to accommodate the growth that's coming to Utah County specifically. And then we have aging roads that need to be repaired as well. And now we also are grappling with climate change and the impact that climate is having on roads, with some maybe some days with more heat than we're used to. And then again, a winter that we had that was just robust with moisture. How is UDOT responding to the varying, climates that we're experiencing in Utah, because one of the beautiful pieces about living in Utah is that you have different climates. You can go, in fact, I love it that you can go skiing. On some days, you can go golfing on the same day, right? In April and maybe November. But how is UDOT responding to the variables in our weather patterns? And think about it from Tremonton all the way down to the St. George, because the roads that are aging, you've got extreme heat. How is UDOT responding to the variables of weather on its roads?
So, improving maintenance, like I mentioned, one of the goals is optimizing mobility to make the system that we have work better without being able to build, another freeway somewhere. Utah County has one freeway coming through it, and it has to work. Like you said, like you were talking earlier, you said it's got to work. For the economy to work, we have to keep traffic moving. And striping, we had the big press release a couple of weeks ago about a striping project we have coming up to improve the pavement markings, making them more visible in the rain and all weather conditions. So that improves safety, that keeps people in line, keeps traffic moving. Be able to do that in all weather conditions, whether the heat of the summer or the rain and the snow. Being able to see the pavement markings is critical. So.
Very good. And then segue into, how much data you are collecting as you look at the state, from its, I-15 corridor and what have you. There's a lot of data that needs to be collected and processed. And in fact, this is a question for both of you. And as you manage that data, there is a tremendous amount of security that you need to probably protect around that data. In what ways are you, protecting against cyber threats and maintaining kind of the public trust with the amount of data that you are collecting, and then what of that you share back with the public? Dave, start with you. Tell us a little bit about the management of that amount of data and then protecting data privacy.
Yeah, it's a huge, I don't want to call it a burden, but a responsibility to manage the data. We want to stay out of the headlines as much as possible because the security industry is so small. If there is a hack on any platform, it spreads like wildfire really quickly. So the first thing that we're doing is we're starting to be more, when you're a startup and you get out, it's really just about growth. Now we're looking at our infrastructure, starting to do things like SOC 2, Type 2 certifications to try to bring validity to our platform and give customers confidence in doing business with us. That's very expensive, and it's a culture shift for us. So we're in the process of that. That should be completed by end of year, which will be huge. There's not very many platforms that can say they have that. So that's probably the biggest thing that we're proud of today. But we don't have any master logins. That's one of the problems with the industry that a couple companies have been caught with in the past. We have log files. We have individual logins. We partner with another company called Okta to make sure to provide verification, as well as we offer multi-factor authentication through them, where we employ even biometrics to some degree. But we're also just really investing a lot of time and energy to research and to be more cyber responsible. But that SOC 2 Type 2 is probably the biggest thing for us right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Peter, talk to us a little bit about data and the Internet of Things, which I think is an amazing acronym, IoT, and what UDOT is doing to capitalize on that.
Well, like I mentioned, we have that data ecosystem that we're building, and there's security built into that. There's a credential system called Security Certificate Management, where virtual certificate is transmitted with the data, between the traffic signals and the vehicles, so they know it's a legitimate message coming through, whether it's coming from the infrastructure side or from the vehicle side. And the vehicles themselves have so much data available on them. A lot of it, it's proprietary. The manufacturers, OEMs, all have different ways of, identifying the data or, transmitting the data. And there's still some trust issues to work out with them, whether it's Ford or GM or whichever company. They're very protective of their data and their engineering. Roads all the DOTs, yeah, we work together, the roads, and it's all a public service, whereas they're a public, for-profit company trying to develop technology. So trying to merge those together, is taking some time, but we all eventually get to the point where it's for the greater good, and we can get that vehicle data, the vehicle insights of them traveling on the roadway. What can they send back to the department, to the traffic operations center to share what's going on? We have everything online, whether it's the traffic signals, pavement markers or street lights or all the different technology that's on the road, all the different road assets. I've had people talk to me about signs. Hey, I can put a sensor behind my sign to transmit Wi-Fi on it and other information about what's going on. So putting all this together and making sure we have that secure layer to know that the information is legitimate and avoid people from hacking into it and transmitting false messages or telling you the road's wet when it's not or something that's all coming together in that data ecosystem to make everything work, not just work safer and more efficient, make the most of what we have in our existing infrastructure.
Very good. Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask one final question before we open it up to our group here. Public acceptance plays a vital role in the success of new transportation technologies. What might you suggest to effectively educate the public about the benefits and safety measures associated with evolving road infrastructure and technologies, especially in your spheres of influence? So how do we educate the public about what we're about, what it is that you're trying to accomplish with the mission and vision that you have both at UDOT and then LiveView Technologies? Peter, start with you. Public
information.
Public information and education and kind of buy-in.
Working with the communication groups to get, public information, educational messages out there, whether it's, the Zero Fatalities campaign or, other PI campaigns we see out there. And maybe you see a trailer at the movie theater about a safety message or, a lot of those are about seatbelts and basic safety messages that way too. But bringing the technology to the people, in 2019, we had the autonomous vehicle pilot here. We had an autonomous shuttle where we went out to public places, office parks, the university. We did it at the auto show, obvious choice there, right? So people are inside looking at future automobiles, and they came out to the parking lot and said, hey, want to get on a self-driving bus? And, the shuttle, I think it held about 10 people max. It was pretty small, but they could get on and take a ride around the parking lot and say, look, this drives by itself. And getting people exposed to the technology and say, oh, that's actually, pretty plain there. It just drives itself and it's very calm. Drives like somebody said, it drives like a grandma, right? But it follows every instruction letter of the law. And you could see in the demonstration track we had at another location, you could see the tire tracks as it went around the loop. They were in exactly the same place every time because it's a computer and it doesn't deviate. So, but exposure I think is the biggest part right there. Getting people exposed and used to the new technology.
I think the overarching goal, zero fatalities, is the only goal. I think is right. Amazing public service, and it's top of mind. And I love that you won't deviate from that goal. That zero fatalities is the ultimate. Tell us about LVT and what you're doing to help with public perception, public buy-in.
Yeah, our mission is to make the world a safer and more secure place. I'm going to congratulate myself for remembering that word for word. So please, nobody check me on that. But really, what we're providing is a service. We are. If you're familiar with CPTED principles, crime prevention through environmental design, there's a principle called territoriality, where you send a message that this specific area or this specific territory is owned and well maintained. And LVT allows you to deploy that in areas where CPTED may be deficient. Maybe those areas weren't well defined. Maybe fencing has been cut. So you deploy a unit and you instantaneously send a message to the rest of the general public that this area is owned and well maintained, and this is our territory. And if you come in here, you will be apprehended, or there will be consequences to that. In that effort, we're trying to remove opportunistic crime. There's always going to be targeted attacks where something is cased, somebody just has a vendetta. We're trying to create somewhat of a mystery around what the units do. So when criminals or bad actors come and they evaluate risk, because they do, they'll look at the unit and say, I don't know what that thing does. I'm going to take what I'm about to do to another spot. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to remove opportunistic threats and to make the world safer.
And you have empirical data, right, that backs up
We
what
do.
good you're doing in Portland and in the Seattle areas. That's wonderful. Okay, great. All right. Jeff, do we have an extra mic out there so I don't need to roam? Okay, you've got us covered. All right. Do we have any questions for Peter or for Dave?
So we talk a lot about these autonomous vehicles and infrastructure, and how some of the infrastructure can now communicate with vehicles, private vehicles. Where is the line for privacy in all of this?
As far as the line for privacy, like I mentioned earlier, with
Yeah, so if I'm in a private vehicle and the government is kind of asserting whether or not I'm being a safe driver, a bad actor, or whatever, where's my protection of privacy in the technology play?
So, and I mentioned earlier, the data collection we're doing right now, we're only in state vehicles right now, but there is, anonymization going on with that data as it's sent out. It takes out all identifying information, whether it's the vehicle ID number, or, there's no license plate transmitted. There's not even I think the length of the vehicle is the only thing in there. It's not even make and model in there. So if we see those alerts come up on the screen about hard braking, there's a vehicle there, the size of it, but we don't know, don't even know it's a Ford. We don't even know, it doesn't say, hey, Joe Smith is out here in his Ford F-150 and he crashed. It just says, there's a vehicle out here and it needs assistance. So right now we have that firewall there where we strip out all of the anonymization, all of the personal identifiable information. But on top of that, we're only in government vehicles right now. With the general public, we don't have, any aftermarket devices to install yet, and the OEMs are still, just right on the brink. Like, yeah, we're going to do it next year. We're going to do it next year. We're going to put these, the other half of the system. We have the antennas out on the road. You need the antenna in the vehicle to get the two-way communication there.
You've mentioned a couple times a heartbreaking incident. Is
Hard braking.
H-E-R?
H-A-R-D.
H-E-R-A-T, like the beats?
No, hard, like
Oh, hard.
hard, sorry.
Okay, very good. I was just curious. I didn't know if anyone else heard it. I was thinking,
Like
how
severe
is it
braking.
that you know that because my daughter was an fender bender and it was very heartbreaking for
Yeah.
her. So yeah, and we did total the car, so it was also hard.
was
Any
hard.
other questions from our group here? Okay. Well, there are. Go ahead.
Just real quick, just wondering, what you talk about your interactions with Ford or Chevy or, some of these manufacturers of equipment. What's kind of been your biggest roadblock in terms of partnering with private industry versus government partnerships there?
The privacy is definitely one of the issues. A lot of the times I'll hang their hat on that. A lot of it's about their proprietary technology, worried about their engineering or their trade secrets, or they want to be the one with the new features, right? But they usually hang their hat on privacy. We got to protect our customers. We don't want any personal information getting out. And even with the telematics data that they have right now, they can get telematics data back from the vehicle back to their own center, but it's an opt-in procedure typically. Like when the person buys the car, they have to agree for that data to be transmitted. So.
Great questions. I think we're pretty close, unless there's any other thoughts. I have one concluding comment. If there's any other questions before, all right. Well, we have a longstanding joke in Utah County that there are 3 unenviable positions to be placed as a speaker. Number 1 is anytime you follow Matthew S. Holland, who's our president of Utah Valley University and probably one of the best orators that you can find on planet Earth. And so you never want to follow Matthew Holland. The second is between a hungry crowd and lunch. You don't want to be there. And the third is anytime you have to precede Carlos Becerros. So we do not want to hold him up any more than we have to. So with that, let's have a round of applause for Peter and Dave.